I am in Siem Reap, in Cambodia, one of the most visited places on the earth. It is a city of ancient temples, now a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Its old name is Angkor, which simply means city in the Khmer language. For 800 years, it was the capital of the Khmer Kingdom and was larger than the capital of the Holy Roman Empire. Thanks to its engineers who built an intricate system of reservoirs and canals, it could house more people than there are in Manhattan today. I am reminded of India when I see the Khmer script, which has an Indic origin, and the red dirt roads and the statues of Hindu gods. But there are significant differences, like these triangular roofs, the pots on the roadside, which are in fact dustbins made of rubber, and these fried snacks, crickets and beetles. But there is much more of India coming soon. I hire a tuk-tuk for the day, like other tourists, and start my journey. Angkor's story begins in 802 CE, when a Khmer chieftain breaks away from the kingdom of Java and declares himself king of free Cambodia. Like most of Southeast Asia, he is influenced by the Pallava dynasty of South India. He takes on their title, Varman, and starts constructing temples like them. Shiva is his chief god. His lineage, the many Jayavarmans, each constructs a temple. For a few years, there is a break in the lineage. A nephew, Suryavarman, usurps the throne in 1113. To legitimize himself, he constructs a gigantic temple dedicated to a new god, Vishnu. This temple, Angkor Wat, is still the biggest temple in the world. As Buddhism comes to Cambodia, new temples are built for Buddha, and in the older ones, statues of Shiva and Vishnu are replaced by statues of Buddha. In Angkor Wat, the moat around the temple is like a river. One side of the outer wall is 2.2 miles long, and the entire area can contain 200 soccer fields. Its design follows the Hindu cosmology. Five peaks of the heavenly Mount Meru, abode of Vishnu, surrounded by the ocean of milk. One can get lost in the many chambers of the entrance gates, enticed by the apsaras. Then one sees the lotus-like peaks of the main temple far away. The stones underfoot are uneven, and the steps have eroded. A lot of the structure is being restored by experts from many countries. One can see panels from the Ramayana on the arches. The statues are all Buddhas now. Along the four sides are bas-relief murals of the battle scenes from the Ramayana and Mahabharata, and from Suryavarman's life. Here is Kartikeya on his peacock. Here Arjuna with his bow and arrow. One entire wall has the churning of the ocean, where Vishnu, as the tortoise, saves the earth. The steps leading to the prayer halls are very steep. Once, only priests were allowed to climb them. Now, we too are allowed, at least those whose hearts can take the exercise. And of course, pigeons cannot be stopped. We smell them everywhere. We are standing on a structure made entirely with stones sitting on one another. There is no mortar to glue them together. The inside of the structure is a light porous brick called laterite. It's made of the clay that came out when the moat was dug. Outside are the heavy sandstones that can be carved. These stones were dragged from a quarry 30 kilometers away. They were rubbed against each other to fit seamlessly together. And lastly, the carving was done in place. The forest was cleared, the moat was dug, the temple constructed and carved, all in 32 years, because Suryavarman meant it to be his last resting place. It is believed his ashes are under the main chamber. I awake my tuk-tuk driver, and again we are on our way. 5 minutes later, we are entering the big city, Angkor Thom. This was constructed by Jayavarman VII in 1186 after Angkor Wat. The face on the gate is of the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshwar, but the entranceway is lined by the gods on one side and demons on the other, holding the snake. Again, the churning of the ocean. In fact, the entrance of all temples in Angkor have the snake. The snake is found to be worshipped by people who live close to jungles, whether in India or anywhere else in Southeast Asia. This is the Bayon temple. Once it had 200 identical faces, four on each roof. It's early March, but already hot. One has to drink water all the time. Here are some monkeys, not from the Ramayana panel. The temple elephants now take tourists around the Bayon. Next, I come to the Baphuon temple. Once it had a moat around it. Now we walk on a bridge, but there's no water. There's a steep climb ahead, but just a shell on top. It was a Shiva temple, but one side was redone later to depict the Buddha in parinirvana. One can make out the 70-meter long body of the reclining Buddha. The holes in the stones mark the places where bamboo poles were inserted. That is how they were carried on the shoulders of bearers. Then one stone was placed on another and rotated with the help of the poles. This laborious process was used to polish the stones. In the early 1600s, the Khmer were conquered by the Thai. Angkor was abandoned. The jungle claimed the temples that were not used, unlike the Angkor Wat. Prohm was constructed as a Buddhist monastery. The snake carvings were missing, but now the roots of the silk cotton tree complete the picture. The restoration project has decided not to disturb the trees. I am looking at some restored sites and I am wondering if the work is really well done. Then I see this. How on earth did a pile of stones become a columned passage? On the way out, we hear music, drums, and a kind of violin. It's an orchestra of some 10 people. But something is not right. All these people are maimed. Some have no legs, some no arms. One realizes Cambodia is not just the glorious nation of temples. It also was colonized. It was victim of the Cold War, it had civil war and genocide. I feel too ashamed to photograph these musicians. They remind us that we, as humanity, have a long way to go.